Okay, yeah, chances are a tree could have fallen over at that time.
At that, like,
Exact time.
2 seconds after we stopped recording everything, which that's weird.
That was cool. If that's what we're looking for.
So now my recorder is staying on all night long.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what we get.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another Sasquatch Out of the Shadows live stream. I'm your host, Alex Pedikov. It's been a while, obviously, since we're not really doing the regular schedule anymore. I got to update the intro. I realized that it says weekly live stream. That's not true, unfortunately. We're going to kind of keep doing it this way, where just do a stream here and there. It's just a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, for folks that haven't, been, well, since I haven't been doing streams really, we're going to be having on a few friends of the show tonight, but did want to just go over a few things and kind of say what's been going on. Obviously, personal stuff aside, we've been doing a lot of video work for Small Town Monsters, of course, with the Beyond the Trail or Bigfoot Beyond the Trail series. There's 2 episodes that are out. It just came out, I believe, kind of in July, both in July, I should say, about West Virginia, which is really cool. So if you want to go check those out on the Small Town Monsters channel, there's a lot of that sort of stuff. We've got other videos coming as well. This fall is going to be pretty big. We're going to have our Alaska, kind of main investigative Alaska stuff coming out. I'm really excited to share a lot of that with folks. So that'll be pretty cool. Also, Lions of the East, my mountain lion documentary, is going to be coming out on the Small Town Monsters channel as well, September 1st. So that'll be over on the STM channel. So just a couple little updates for folks. Aside from that, I hope everyone's been doing well. Let's see. We have Nikki, Hairy Man, Hoaxes and Hoodwinks says first in the chat. Hey, how's it going, Nikki? Also got Brian and Chewy second, doing a whole little second thing. That's funny. What's going on, Brian? We've got Joe, says here for a few minutes. How's it going, Joe of Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group? Very cool. Francesca E says, hello, Alex, Tate, and team. How you doing? We've got Mike Casey, Bigfoot Hunter as well. What is up, Mike? How's it going, man? Just talking to him the other day. He's in a pretty cool part of the country, obviously, being out there in the Pacific Northwest. We've got My Eyes. What is going on? And then let's see, Evan. What's up, buddy? Evan of New Hampshire Sasquatch. I've actually been going out in the field a bunch with Evan this past summer. Well, past few weeks. We've gone out a few times. So that's been pretty fun. Just some areas in New Hampshire that have a kind of history of stuff, scoping some areas out. Pretty cool. Outback Orchard. Hello there. How's it going? We've got Papa Craig C. says, oh, wow, Alex is on. Yeah, it's a rare occasion. These guys dragged me out of retirement here to talk about Tate's series. No, I'm joking, obviously. Wanted to talk about this. But like I said, sort of at the intro, we're going to kind of it's going to be more informal. It's not going to be a weekly stream anymore. It just gets really a lot to kind of manage with everything else going on. And I've just got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life too. So yeah, let's see who else we got. We got Angel Nolan. Hey there, how's it going? Illumin Nathan says, I like Sasquatch, so pumped for Monster Fest. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Monster Fest 2023 going on in Canton, Ohio. Small Town Monsters put on an event that we're putting on some point in June of 2023. I don't know the dates. Go to the Small Town Monsters website for more updates on that. But anyway, so good to see everyone in the chat. I'm sure we'll have more people pop in and say hey. So what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to have on a bunch of the crew here, folks that you guys are familiar with. Obviously that guy Tate, he's like everywhere. He's kind of annoying, but we all kind of love him too. We've got Jonathan Easley too, and Ron Reed. So let's just pop everybody in here. Tate with his crazy avatar. Jonathan, what's up?
Hey,
Sir Ron.
Good job. Oh, hey, we're taking over now, guys. Where
Falling some hard times there, Ron? Or?
Yeah, my computer decided to kick me out of my own stream. It's because Tate brought his profile. He actually put his face in, so it
you mean
caused
this one?
a malfunction. Yeah. How dare you? But what's up, guys?
Nothing much.
Nothing much. It's over in the heat. It's hot out
yeah,
here in Idaho. Yeah.
hot in Idaho.
You do what?
It's rainy here. I'm in Iowa. I just picked up my kayak over at Jeremiah's place.
Yeah. So you just saw Jeremiah. Very cool.
Yep. Yep. Going to turn it into a little bit of an overnight investigation.
Oh, nice.
Seems like the weather's going to be a little bit of an issue, but
Oh, nice.
But,
I just want to point out
tomorrow.
we're all in such different corners of the country. I mean, I'm up here in the Northeast. Jonathan is in the Northwest. Tate is in the south coast of the tip of Florida, basically. Ron is in the middle of the country. I mean, everyone is talk about being geographically spread about. I mean, that's pretty wild. But anyway, so we're here to talk about, obviously, you guys have been romping around the Pacific Northwest and Iowa as well. Tate in particular with his yearly kind of pilgrimage to Bluff Creek, but Ron and Jonathan, obviously you guys are kind of fixtures at Bluff Creek too, hidden in there. I wish I could have made it out there. Obviously it was really cool hearing about all your guys' adventures, so I'm excited to kind of share that with folks. Ron and I and Eli, obviously we got up to Alaska in May, and that was just totally insane, and I'm super excited to share a lot of that stuff too with folks. That's going to be this fall and in around November. A lot of that stuff's going to be coming out. So there's going to be a lot to it. So definitely stay tuned. But Tate, you've got your own plans for this fall, huh? Let's dive into it a little bit. What is the search for Sabe? Let's just start out with that.
A search for Sabe. It was I got the title from Sabe from watching Survivor Man Bigfoot, and in the episode, Les Stroud mentioned that he was in Manitoba, Canada, and he heard like the name Sabe, which is like another name for Sasquatch, for that tribe in that area. And for that, for that tribe and maybe a few others, they have teachings for like different animals, and each animal has a different attribute or represents something else. Like one could represent courage or strength, and Sabe, Bigfoot, represents honesty. So I was like, I want to do the documentary series honestly, but I want to have Bigfoot in the name. And so I figured those two are this, they mean honesty and Bigfoot. So let's put it together. And I decided to search for Sabe. But originally it was going to just be Washington. Then I was like, let's do California. Then let's do Washington. Then we're going to do Idaho. And then we're going to dig to some really cool people. So might as well do this all. And it's kind of where it came about.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. So what is it kind of entail? How many episodes? I know you said series, but just the basic details for folks and obviously where they can find it. When it's out.
Yeah, it's a 4-part series. The first episode comes out September 20th, which is Iowa. Then California episode comes out October 20th. Washington episode comes out November 20th. And then Idaho comes out December 20th. And you got Ron, Reed, and Jonathan Easley down here pretty much throughout the whole series, so that's always fun. We're the three amigos, and I couldn't have done without their help too. So it's not all me; it's them too.
No, sure, that's awesome. I mean, you guys are great dudes. That's why we love working with you guys, and you're some of my most trusted kind of people. Whenever we get stuff that possibly is going on, or a lot of the other stuff that we do, I always like to check with you guys. I think we have this sort of network where we kind of like to follow up on each other's stuff, and it was really cool. I was down in Tennessee actually when Jonathan was telling me about some of the interesting findings at Bluff Creek, and all that sort of stuff that happened. But so it's gonna be on your YouTube channel, correct, Tate?
Yeah, my YouTube channel. It's my name, Tate Hieronymus. Just spell it like you see it on here, and that's my YouTube channel, and then it'll be released on there. So
cool. It's linked in the description below, and also a link to Ron's Facebook page and Jonathan's YouTube channel as well. So definitely go check that out, guys. I mean, these are some great dudes in this topic. Hard to find people more honest and into the subjects, and also pretty hardcore. I mean, I think we're all we're all pretty much, we get out there. We don't just go glamping and do that sort of thing. And nothing wrong with that, of course.
If you're a pro like me, you go squatching for 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, Tate's the 15-minute squatcher, of course. So
that's a whole inside.
Don't
joke.
worry, I know about all that too. So
Jonathan told you, didn't he? I don't.
Someone spilled the beans. I don't reveal my confidential sources.
Could have been me. It could not have been me.
It was either Jonathan or Ron. I mean, that's pretty much it right there in this panel. But
I got it out of him already.
The interrogation is complete.
Yeah,
that's great. But anyway, so let's just talk a little bit about Bluff Creek. I mean, we don't have to keep it to like a strict format in terms of what's going on, but I want to hear about. Obviously, let's talk about Bluff Creek, because obviously I got to go out there last summer. We were out there. We had some pretty interesting stuff go on. That's where all of us kind of sort of started hanging out and had some cool stuff happen. But you guys had a lot going on at Bluff Creek this year. Who wants to kind of start out with that? One of the Jonathan or Ron, maybe?
Well, I guess I'll start. So it was interesting this time. And, we were talking about how it was different from last time when you were there. Last time when you were there, it seemed like everything happened. We got to experience all this stuff, right? But we walked away with, sounds of wood knocks and a couple vocalizations, at least one. That one you got. And a few stories, like experiences, like what happened with Ron's dog freaking out.
Right.
But this time, the experiences were like at an ultra minimum. Like, we felt we didn't almost hear anything, but the stuff we walked away with and had to kind of post-process was way more. I mean, footprints, hair, what sounds like a vocalization that we think is one. There's still, there's this like thermal footage drone cam that got what looks like a bear. Sometimes it doesn't look like a bear. Sometimes it looks like a deer. We're pretty sure it's a deer, but it still looks so weird, and it was cool to have to sit down and, process all that stuff.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I mean, I've gotten to see all of that stuff, and the footage alone is super cool. Just because, I feel like getting thermal footage of anything out in the woods is just awesome. I mean, we had tried it in Alaska, Ron, with that thermal drone we had, and I think it was a little, I don't know, maybe the drone you guys had at Bluff Creek was a little more, and maybe the terrain was conducive. I don't know, but it was a little, because I thought thermal drones, would be super useful and whatever, but we tried it in Alaska and it really didn't. You could barely penetrate a few feet into those woods in that thick kind of rainforest environment. So maybe an area like some of those meadows up there in Northern California might be a little more conducive to filming and right overhead. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And the tracks, what do you guys think about the tracks?
What do you think, Ron, about those tracks?
Well, I didn't do a lot of the work that Damon did to get the measurements, the width and the length, but I tried to match the stride, and it was uncomfortable for me at 6 feet to be able to match some of the strides from. It clearly looked bipedal in some places. It was easy to distinguish it was a bipedal gait, but the tracks were big, the stride was big, and we thought we heard some possible vocalizations as we were observing them. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't think I've really encountered something like that looks like a bipedal trackway before, especially not in conjunction with some other alleged behavior. So, we were discussing at one point whether or not we were hearing whoops from a primate or whoops from an owl, type of owl that's up there in the Pacific Northwest called a flagellated owl. But I don't know, man. It was just kind of a little bit weird that it was in conjunction. And there's so much that happened on this trip. And I just, before we start getting into it, Tate, how do you feel about talking about some of this stuff?
Oh, go for it. Just don't give too much away, but go for it.
So real quick, I actually have that thermal footage. I don't know if do you guys want me to show it?
I'm fine with that. It's not ours. It's Damon's belongs to
Damon
has an
Irons.
awesome drone, dude, and he flew it. We were all posted up at Laird Meadow, just to give you a little backstory to what you're about to see. We had about 11 people involved in this, all great people. Everyone, I started thinking about this. Almost everyone that was with us has been doing this for at least 10 years.
Or longer. And they're
We're
all
like
really
the newest guys.
Yeah,
Or
they're all
longer.
real
Yeah.
experienced.
No, then there's guys that have been doing it like 30 years, 25 years, like, Bart and stuff, and Kip and Robert. Anyway, we were all posted up at Laird Meadow, and we were just kind of like, we just hid in the bushes and just sat there and listened for a couple hours. And at one point, Damon was like a mile up the road, and he sent his drone all around, did big circles, and picked out almost everybody except for me and Glenn, who were hiding in some bushes and below the grass line. And then there was he recorded something way out behind us. So.
Yeah, right on. I mean, that's what's so cool about being at Bluff Creek, especially in that July kind of time frame, right? You've got people from pretty much all over the country showing up to go squatching. Obviously, you guys mentioned the guys that have been going out there for so long. That's what was so cool for me, just being able to go out there and obviously hang out with like-minded folks like yourselves, but seeing all the other folks that kind of came in. So anyway, all right, yeah, I was just downloading it. I think it should be good to go now. So let me just pop that in, and I'll just keep us on screen so we can, show it, commentate, whatever. Let me see, where is it? LairdMeadowCreature.mp4. I like that name. Okay, yep.
This is funny. This is the first time I've actually seen it because Damon sent it to me. I just never got to watch it.
Do you know what model of drone this is, or any of you guys know?
It's the DJI drone. It's a DJI Enterprise. It's the newer one.
Oh, so it's a pretty big. It's the pretty big one. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a $6,000 drone. I mean, if I can afford one someday, I'm buying it.
Right. Well, you can clearly see there's an object there. That's what's given the red kind of signature off. He's got it on one of the red hot sort of mode. I would assume you can probably switch to, because that's the FLIR. I believe that's the FLIR equipped thermal on the DJI.
Yeah.
It's not like a Pulsar or something else. So
now you do see it move. So he made sure it wasn't like some rock. You know how rocks.
Yeah, they'll do that.
Light up like that. So it does do a little walk right there. It did a little walk, but
you can see it.
There's a part where it's a little more clear where it does a little walk, but now the most interesting thing about this is that I'll say Glenn and I heard a bark, a sort of bear roar, vocalization, whatever it was, came from the exact direction that he's filming here. Not saying that's a creature, not saying it's even a big, this, like he said, his assumption was that he thinks it's a deer, but
okay,
it's open to interpretation. Like, I mean, the more you look at it, the more confusing it gets sometimes.
Right. Well, yeah, even if it is a bear, I mean, that's just really cool to be able to get one at night. I mean, on a drone, that's probably sort of rare. I mean, bears, they're pretty elusive generally. I mean, I don't know how many people have these thermal drones, obviously probably not in huge numbers. So probably pretty unique in terms of just being able to get footage.
Yeah, I agree.
Damon flies this thing awesome. Like, he's never like lost. You never hear him go, uh-oh, he's so confident with it. But and at one point he kind of tries to like dive down, and then he shines the light at it just to get it to like move.
Yeah, you can see it.
See right there where you're like, okay, I think it's a deer. Right there, it looks pretty kind of deerish.
So Mike Casey is asking an interesting question, saying, what noise does this thing give off spook-wise? I'd imagine it's probably decently loud, especially at that height.
Oh, he's probably a few hundred feet up to clear that tree line.
No, that's not a few hundred feet. I mean, that's
maybe 100.
Yeah, maybe 100. I would say
100 feet.
200-300 would probably be way higher.
I mean, even if he was 200, even if he was 200 feet, he can zoom in though.
That's true. That's a good point, actually. I don't know what kind of zoom that you have, the capabilities you have on the thermal there. I don't know anything really about the Enterprise FLIR, except I'm looking at it now, and yeah, it's like 6,500 for the base model.
Yeah.
Wish I had the budget for that. Yeah, you can see it
Same.
moving. You can right
See
there.
that?
I just saw it
You
move.
see that
yeah.
moving? And that's when he was showing us it, and we all went, "Oh, whoa, hold on, watch this." He's like, hold on," because at other parts it does look like it's like maybe quadruped, but I mean, it's parts like that leave you scratching your head, I guess.
Jeremiah, Bigfoot Society's in the chat. Just want to say, Jeremiah had you guys on, or at least Ron and Tate on last night discussing this as well. So trying to make sure the conversation is somewhat different, not just the same thing, because I got to tune in a little bit to that. So go check out Jeremiah's show with you guys, because actually he was in the Iowa part of your expedition, Tate. So if you want to hear his perspective on that, definitely go check that out. Look, there he goes.
Oh, there he goes.
But,
Ron bought us all stickers at the. He bought us some. Oh, there he goes stickers.
I still gotta
nice.
mail. I still gotta mail the ones out to you and Eli, Alex.
Oh, this is your reminder.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see. I mean, that from this perspective, I can kind of understand, deer, bear kind of appearance, the way that it's sort of crouched over. I would imagine maybe the noise
Is that a creek right there?
freaking it out.
Is that a creek or a bunch
know.
of rocks? I don't think that's a creek then.
Those are probably maybe rocks. I don't know. It's
weird. It's hard to tell.
But yeah, so as he looks like he's trying to get lower to it. Is there any other parts where you can kind of see it clearer, or it's just just sort of stays
scattered.
in the same
I can't remember the parts because they're so random. But
right.
Yeah, at one point he does turn off the therm. He turns on the spotlight, and then he starts diving down and going up and down, just trying to spook whatever it is and get some movement.
Sure. Just that would help kind of identify what it is. See, that's a thing, with these drones. As great as this is, it's still, we don't know what it is, right? I mean, the tech.
Yeah.
And this is one, not. I mean, I'm assuming there's obviously higher grades than this, but this is, out of the price range of most Bigfoot enthusiasts, or just in general. So still, with these capabilities, we still have a long way to go in terms of it being completely effective. And I think that's what I was kind of mentioning, our experience in Alaska. We were using, I think it was a Parrot drone. I don't know if you remember, Ron, what model it was.
No.
Yeah, because Eli was kind of flying it, and we were sitting on the deck of the cabin, and essentially he went out over the water and was looking down at us, and we were just these little blobs. But the moment I walked into the woods, I was just completely gone. He couldn't tell I was there at all. So the capabilities, I think, are limited. As great as it is, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's still room for improvement.
Even with the regular therm, so our first 2 nights up in Bluff Creek, my first 2 nights, I should say, it was just cold and drizzling, rainy.
Yeah,
and,
it was the same.
Yeah, we went out at night and we walked the road that goes down to the Patterson-Gimlin film site. And at one point,
that was weird.
So much that see what I mean? Yeah, there's the instances where it looks pretty weird.
Ooh, don't give that one away yet. That's a good. Jonathan and I saw something weird on the therm that we can't explain.
Okay, interesting.
That'll be in the episode because we were looking at it and it was right there, and I was shining my light on it, and I don't know. That's all I'll say for now. But you'll have to just watch the episode. It was weird to say the least, right, Jonathan?
It was a little strange, yeah. Why is that lighting up that way?
Yeah, it was really odd.
No, I was just gonna say that at one point, my therm became completely washed out. Those things. If there's too much moisture in the air.
Okay, now I hit it with the spotlight. So you can do a dual thermal and non-thermal with
what?
That's really cool. Wow.
Oh, I need to get this drone now.
So for perspective, yeah. Left. That's what it looks like with the flashlight, and look how good you have to be at picking stuff out with the therm and not mistaking it. You can see so much.
Yeah, because if that thing was standing still, and that's something I've experienced a lot with handheld thermals. So whether it's something like this AGM or the pulsars, they are a lot of times you'll get the rocks and other things that glow during the daytime, and that'll be really tricky to differentiate. Especially if it doesn't move.
Look at that.
That looks like a deer.
Yeah,
that's what he thinks it is.
But it's weird because has not
Pretty
moved the
pretty
whole
bulky
time.
though. I mean,
Yeah.
And also at this angle, animals look weird at a.
Here's my thing. It makes me
Utah.
wonder if it is a giant rock because, and here's my reasoning because I know you guys
Well, it
see
did move though. We did see that arm move
yeah,
though.
there was
I
definitely
know-
movement, and I remember seeing it initially and seeing movement when Jonathan sent it to me a few weeks ago.
But wait, let me make an argument against that.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
We all know we use like thermals, and at a distance, things can appear to move when they're really not moving.
I agree, but like that's the thing that happens. I noticed
Look
that
at
happens
that!
a lot.
Look,
with-
it's literally turning its head and stuff. Look,
oh yeah, no, that's definitely
it's
animated.
that's not a misregistration of
No.
heat right there.
Weird.
That's,
Okay.
Because like when you're doing a handheld, I notice this all the time. Yeah, because our hands shake. I'll see something in the distance. I'm saying, oh, it's definitely moving, but obviously it's not. But with the drone, I mean, if that thing was standing completely still as it just was when it moved its head, there shouldn't be much shake there. That stabilization is much greater than human hands
I guess
or
that's
our
true.
human abilities to, attempt to stabilize things, which fail miserably just because we have our hands shake. We can't stay still.
That's a good point too.
So it's just a really cool technology though. I'd love to be able to mess around with this drone, take this one out into the field.
Yeah, there's the road right there.
mm-hmm.
There's his Jeep.
There he goes. See.
Yeah, because it's funny because this year, I mean, obviously last year, Alex, because Jonathan was there, we had activity in Laird Meadow, right? So
Just because Jonathan
Just 'cause I was there. My presence.
So this year we decided to hit Laird Meadow pretty hard. That was our main focus, and something we wanted to do this time around is how like when we would go out to different places in the Bluff Creek area, I mean it's a good hour sometimes to get out there because of the roads.
Yeah.
So and then it's like an hour drive one way to get there, and then you're there, then you have a few hours, then
Oh,
you
look,
come-
there goes me,
the whole group of people.
Terry, and
Stevie.
We walked all the way from Laird Meadow up to him.
So yeah, you drive an hour out, and then you have so much time there. Then you drive an hour back. So we really wanted to like do our due diligence and go to each spot and give it a night at least. Be there during the day, cook food, get some stuff out in the air, it smells, and try and hit it at night and see what we get.
Yeah,
But
like that approach.
Laird Meadow seemed pretty promising this year still too.
You should tell about where we camped and how cool that was. Right around the
Yeah, because
corner
you
there.
guys kind of camped all over the place. You were in different
So,
spots. You
yeah.
went into the different lakes. You were doing all that sort of stuff.
Ron was trying to find this lake that Bob Titmus casted a track. You wanted to say that, Ron? Because we ended up camping there.
Yeah, I think it was in 1983. Titmus found some tracks, and a partial handprint in a pond somewhere around Laird Meadow, Onion Mountain, and so it kind of is described as both areas, depending on the source. And I saw as I was trying to research it because I wanted to see if I could find a location like that and pinpoint where tracks were actually cast in the past. I saw that Cliff Barrickman had a post on Twitter a couple years back from finding that pond and taking pictures. So we reached out to Cliff, and it's a really crazy story about Titmus because he was so dedicated to getting the handprint. He actually he drained the pond. He made like a what do you call it, like a culvert or something to drain it and reroute all the water so that the water level in the pond will drop so that he could cast the handprint. And
I remember that story. Yeah, that's a good
one. Yeah, and it's right there. Like it's a relatively maintained. I thought we were gonna have to bushwhack to get to it, but it was relatively maintained camping area, flat open spot, and then the pond's off to the right. And so we were nestled there. That's where a lot of us camped out that night. And then somewhere in the Laird Meadow itself is where Patterson made his cast. What was it, 63 or 64?
64.
Yeah.
Yep. I think
So
I have a copy of that
3
one.
years before he filmed the Patterson film. But yeah, it was kind of cool. We were able to find that area, so we had a little bit of a motivation in a historical sense, and we went out and we did some of that, and then we also just hit up there because of our personal experiences. We also wanted to put time in there, and I'm glad that we had the presence of mind to, on our first day, like when we got up and, after we greeted everybody in camp and had our first round of burgers and beer, like the next day, the first work day that we had, the first work day we had was put the trail cameras out. And so we had like 3 cameras day 1, 3 cameras in Laird Meadow in various areas. And then we just had more people would come in a couple of days later, and we'd put more trail cameras out. We were there. Gosh, I mean, we probably made 3 or 4 visits just before we actually did our investigation, deploying cameras and
we walked the meadow like
collecting
4 or
samples.
5 times. We walked the meadow.
We walked that meadow a bunch. Just look, like we really focused on that area this time, and it was kind of neat because they had already seen it, I think, by the time I got there. But they go take a look at these trees in the meadow, and it's that those Tate burgers are great, Jeremiah. They sure are. You got those typical, what would you think, 7.5, 8 foot level that look like they just bent over.
That one was at least taller than, it was a few feet taller than Ron and I.
And it has this like twist. It's about a pine tree about this big around here, It looks like it's grabbed and twisted down. It's got that whole twisting motion. And then the other tree right across from it has that big old break in it. So, like we were there we were kind of just thinking about what it could have been, what natural stuff could do this. Obviously not lightning, snow load. How would snow load look to have to like rise to that level and then like some sort of melee? So then Tate pointed out, well, there's that tree right there and it's completely unaffected. There's all these little trees surrounding the meadow that were unaffected. Why just those trees? I don't know, but they look really interesting, and we all got really good pictures and footage of them. And so that was in the middle of Laird Meadow as well.
Yeah, I mean, just the sheer amount of time you guys were able to be out there, I think, is just so awesome. I heard you guys talking about it on Jeremiah's show last night about being able to just be out there for that period of time. I mean, how did that feel? Just being able to be at Bluff Creek for, I mean, I'm assuming for each of you guys, that was probably the longest you've been out there in like a single sitting.
That was the longest. Yeah, that was the longest we've been out there for sure. Even me, 10 days.
That's awesome.
I mean, the first few days, Ron and I we met up with Kip and his wife. We were there, and then so Ron and I kind of hung around camp until everybody got met up with us. And Damon was one of the second people there that got there. So me, Ron, and Damon were the ones that hitting up Laird Meadow early on and walking the roads, setting up trail cameras. Then when Jonathan got here, we all went back to Laird Meadow, and then that's kind of when we started hitting it. And Ian Carton was one of the older guys with us, but he pulled through and joined our posse, and he was able to. He packed in every night, unpacked every night. So that was, just congrats to him for tagging along with us.
Yeah, he found some interesting things. Didn't he? He found some relics from what he thinks was the building area, the building equipment from the 1958.
Like skids from the
project.
old, like logger, the cat skinners or whatever.
Yeah,
no kidding.
And it was
dated 1958.
Yeah,
that's historic. That's like seeing the bridge,
even if it wasn't the same crew guys, like still like that was there exactly when all this crazy stuff was going on. I might go back and bring a copy. I might go back and take one when I'm there next year. Dude, they were really happy. All of us grabbed it and held it and thought about taking it home. Every single one of us. Like we went, no, I'm not going to go. And then the next guy would grab. It was
Yeah,
just
we
too
were-
heavy. It was
Well,
just
so
slightly
it's
too heavy to
cool.
take.
It's really cool because I mean, if you think about it, that was really the first time people were in that. I mean, people had access to that area. I mean, in terms of like the late 50s, that's when they first started putting those roads in. There was a very wild area up until that point. So just being in that same time frame is really cool. Jeremiah has a cool suggestion. He says that should be in the North American Bigfoot Center for sure. That would be, I'm sure.
well, I might take
cool.
a few. I might take a few and then take one up to Cliff or something. I did send you those pictures that
Here, let me
I didn't know if you were able to show those.
Yeah.
How neat would that be on his Jerry Crew wall?
If you want to show the first one,
That's
that was
great
me
with,
filming the picture, filming the actual tree. That's the one
Yeah,
about my height.
Let me share my screen here. Let's see, share screen. I'm forgetting how I used to do all this stuff, but all right. So
that one,
Tate filming this thing.
that one Ron saw, and he was like, it was twisted. That was kind of weird. We were thinking maybe it could have been somebody, but my opinion was, on the other tree, we went back and I noticed something on the other tree that I saw, and it was much taller than this one. Like Ron and I are about 5'11", almost 6 foot, give or take, if we're wearing good shoes. Yeah, that one, and that was taller than us. I couldn't even reach where the break was.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, one can claim it was snow load, but the thing is, why snow load on that one tree and ice? And the other problem was with that, in my opinion, was when I went back, there was a branch that I noticed on the other side of that tree right here that was also broken, but it was like healthy, so there was still green. So that tells me it had to be somewhat fresh within a month or two, not anytime there was snow or ice.
Yeah, that's you can see it at the bottom. That top part is dead. That probably would have been out of season for snow load. I mean, they do get a decent amount of snow up there, right? So,
I mean, yeah, they do, but in my opinion, all the other trees in the background were not touched by anything.
I took a lap around the entire meadow, specifically looking for a tree with any damage or anything at that height, and couldn't find one.
So why would this one tree be affected when the other ones are not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible because it's in the middle of the meadow that maybe it got more weather affecting it. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's strange, but I mean, that's regardless if it was snow load or not. That's just how you do research. You got to look for those.
Yeah, you're documenting what you're seeing out there. It's cool for me because you have to understand my only visual conception of Laird Meadow at this point is just nighttime, because we only went out there that one last night. I've never been in the daytime, so I don't know.
That was me showing up. That was me showing up for the first time, like, whoa, and getting to see where like me and Eli hunkered down in those trees and going, oh man, this looks totally different than what I imagined it being. You know?
Right.
We saw it in the pitch black.
No, it's pretty cool. I mean, just being able to see that area, and I'm glad you guys got to spend so much time out there. I think that it's just such a unique place, that whole Bluff Creek area. And I know you guys didn't spend as much time in Laughs Camp because there was kind of the road. Part of the road was taken out.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we went there, Ron and I actually scoped it out because Kip had a chainsaw and he was like, hey, if you guys are going that way, let me know if we need to cut any wood. And we ended up going through there and we were able to make it all the way in my truck. So it wasn't that bad, but this was the first time in all my years of going there that I haven't camped at Last Camp, which was kind of weird. It was kind of sad actually, because it's like my place, man. But
yeah, it's I mean, especially after the stuff we had happen there last year and Eli's strange prophetic dream with, I wouldn't say prophetic, but bizarre dream. But there's a couple comments and questions I kind of want to kind of look at. So Joe says, I would be very objective to that kind of stuff. Animals can do that. Could have been a bear with an itch.
I mean, it really well could have. That's always a possibility. But like here's what I look for. I mean, like, we obviously know what the signs of Sasquatch do. They do break trees like that. So when I see that, I could think that or a bear. I feel like if it was a bear, that's a pretty big black bear. There's no grizzlies in California.
Well, I mean, the thing, because like I'm gonna go to the other photo actually here. Let me, because I just realized I have it popped up on my screen and you guys don't. So, so Brent also, hey, what's going on, Brent? He says bear climbed to the top of the tree and broke it off. There's videos on YouTube showing bears doing that. Yeah,
that's a
possibility. But the only thing I'm seeing here is that it looks like that's just the top of the tree.
Yeah,
so,
that's
I mean,
like it's probably, my hand is probably up about 5'11", so maybe
it's essentially a sapling there. So at least from my perspective, what I'm seeing is I would be more inclined to believe maybe that was some kind of weather related damage than a bear, because I've seen videos of black bears, and I think a lot of times when you see tree bends and stuff like that, or those really aggressive breaks, you can look up exactly what Brent's talking about. There's videos of black bears, they'll climb up to the top of the sapling and they'll essentially bend it over, it'll snap it over. I mean, it happens for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, would you see claw marks on that in that instance usually? Because
not necessarily, because it's such a small sapling. I mean, it's just the bear literally climbing up to an area. I mean, maybe the base of it could hold it up, but once you get up to that height, it brings it down with the weight. 200-300 pound black bear kind of average.
I feel like a 200, 300, 200 pound black bear would have broken that before that end.
Yeah, maybe that's why Ron, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to me, like a bear. So just a frame of reference, we did find trees that had sustained damage from black bears in the other corresponding meadow. There were a couple of different things about that, though. We got a variety of hair samples from those, and I suspected it was a lot of bear activity. There was bitings in the bark. There was scrapings on some of the trees in the area.
Yeah.
The thing that made these different is I don't think a bear would try to climb that. There's no incentive to climb it. There's nothing at the top of that sapling that a bear would want to try and climb it, especially kind of knowing that the weight wouldn't be supported. And if it were to break, it would probably break halfway down as soon as that tree and the load became top heavy. The breaking point would probably be no lower than where Tate's head is in reference to height. But there wasn't any like broken like small branches, twigs kind of going up and down the tree. There was no like loss of bark on the side. That, if I were to say anything, I would think that could be not even snow load, but ice load. So a whole layer of ice accumulating around the foliage, around the needles, and around the extremities of that branch, where it could be top heavy from something that could actually accumulate from the air. But that would have been high winds and a lot of sleet, and then it would have had to be swaying in the wind top heavy for potentially days before it finally bent over. So
that's why I don't think it's ice, because the other little branch that got twisted and broken, it was green when we checked it out that one day. Then we went back with Jonathan, it was a little browner. So I mean, it only took a day for it to just get a little dark, light brown in that short amount of time. So I feel like if it was ice, I mean, it could have been, but it's weird because I think those were broken at the same time, and that tree was definitely snapped all the way.
So this is a video called "Huge Bear Snapping a Tree in Half." So hopefully you guys can see that. So you kind of see the bear. It looks like a pretty big black bear. He's going up on this tree and basically sort of bringing it straight down. That's a lot of force. I mean, that's a pretty thick tree right there that he took down. Those saplings, especially, that's not necessarily a sapling.
We must have seen, I don't know, 5 to 10 trees like that.
Yeah, easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
Or
I just wanted to show this video.
There were a lot of trees.
There's other videos
like that where we didn't see what snapped them, but you can most likely assume that it was weather related. You can tell away. There's certain characteristics.
I saw this very interesting tree break on the Go Road. I mean, it was pretty high up, and it was a thick tree too, and it was broken like right up in the middle. It had to be at least 6 feet up to that break because it was taller than I was when I stood on the edge of the road. I was like, dude, look at that. And it was in the area where we found the tracks and possible vocalizations. I'm thinking, okay, you got vocalizations, possible tracks, and a possible tree break right here. And I know the history of a go road, and it has encounters there.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
during that footprint find, which was nowhere near Layered Meadow, but we did find just next to it, not too far from it, some bear tracks. So we were able to kind of go look and pick out, oh, these are bear tracks. Look, it's like a little step, and then maybe a double print. And just to humor that, Damon cast one of those prints as well. And when he casted it, you can see that it's a double print. The other direction, coming out of the tree line and going the other direction toward where that tree break was, where Tate saw, was where the other sets were. They were nice, and they were pretty uniform, like what do you say, 16-inch?
Yeah.
Boom, boom, left, right, and it was pretty cool to see. And we'd step in that same soil, and it would just fill up with water again, and like come back like a Tempur-Pedic mattress. And these were like really stamped down,
Right.
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Joe here says, but Tate, how do we know that Sasquatch do that? No one has seen one do that. Not trying to be a naysayer, but the evidence is not strong, bro. I think that was in regards to like the tree breaks. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know either. I mean, I'm not saying I fully believe in it, but at the same time, I do know other people that I trust and respect in the field that have credible evidence of supporting, having that happen. I mean, Connor, they found that one tree when we were out there with him that was like broken and twisted around. I mean, yeah, that could have been a person, but it's either a person or a human or Sasquatch doing it, not a bear.
Right.
So,
No, I'm just curious, like, because I'm trying to think of it as well. Do you guys know of like a sighting where there's some sort of a stick or tree manipulation going on, at least off the top of the head? Because I can think of one from New Hampshire where this thing, because I kind of talk about it when people bring up the structure subject. It was this creature that was seen inside of a structure made of stacked rocks and a hemlock roof. So it wasn't like a typical purported Bigfoot structure, but it was seen inside of that. That's the only one that comes to mind. I don't know if you guys have any that you recall. I'm just curious. I mean, I've heard of stories of Sasquatches in trees, other stuff.
I don't know if I believe the whole tree structure thing, like Todd Standing shows, like Les Stroud, like where they put the trees in like a teepee form. I don't know if I buy that, but I do believe the tree breaks. I mean, because like sometimes a deer could break a tree, an elk could break a tree by accident, or bears would do it. So why not a Bigfoot? I mean,
is it a direct correlation though? That's, I think, the question.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know. But
another thing we're not out there. I mean, we're looking for Bigfoot evidence, but how you do that is we look for anomalies.
Right.
I mean, that's an anomaly.
That's what we're saying in this situation. It's an anomaly, and that anomaly happens to be attributed by many people to Bigfoot. Right.
Exactly.
So as an anomaly, it's, kind of our job is really try and figure out how that happened. It's too strange. It doesn't look like the other breaks. Why is it like that? And
and why is this one tree affected and not the other ones?
Yeah. There's plenty of things you can, like, if you can't find a direct tie to Bigfoot being observed, you can draw other comparisons. And for me, I sometimes think it's a stronger argument if you could draw other comparisons from known primate behavior or anthropology. So if there is an indigenous group of people living in the wilderness or in the jungle or the forest, and they purportedly use wood knocks or something of that nature to communicate, like, to me, that's like, that makes sense for why Bigfoot might utilize wood knocks. And that's, my sister, who did study abroad teachings for students in Australia, she told me that the Aborigines actually do something very similar to wood knocks to kind of communicate during a hunt. And so what I'll say about the tree breaks and stuff is, that's something that I think you could probably look into and find that indigenous people that live in wilderness habitats, like, they probably use that as some type of way to get their bearings. And if
Like,
if that's not the case, if that's not what we're observing here, then you also do have primates breaking and breaking foliage and tearing up leaves and throwing rocks as a sign of physical strength when they feel threatened. So
Yeah, I mean, we know chimps throw rocks at trees and have almost used that as a form of communication for whatever reason.
and then to go along with what Ron's saying, I was watching like Survivor Man, and he was saying like, I think it was like what, like survival school or something like that. I can't remember. Or maybe if it was like Native Americans, they would break trees like that
Well,
and use
that's
them as
actually
use them as markers. Be like, hey, we went this way, and we were talking about a Sasquatch. It's a primate, so it's pretty smart. Maybe it has like a form of that saying they broke it, and this is pointing where we're going.
Well, that's actually, I was going to pull up another comment by Brent who says also looks like a trail marker. That's another possibility. I mean, somebody maybe
in the middle of a meadow, it wouldn't be
the
there.
meadow.
There's a road. There's a road.
Yeah, there's a road right there. The road, like if you
50
look to the
yards
right
from
where
it.
I was, right behind me, it's right there. The road's right there. You could see it clear as day.
Right, but maybe somebody was, oh, this is the historic Laird Meadow. I mean, it's certainly a possibility. I don't know, obviously.
But you do that right next to the road so your buddies could see, like, hey, I pulled this branch over.
True,
You
but
don't do it
they
way out, kind of hidden in the meadow.
That had to be a really tall dude to go out there and break a tree that tall. Bring a step
Well,
ladder.
there's tons of wildlife sign out there, so I could see a hunter, legal or without the right permits or season, going out there, breaking it, and then maybe 30 yards further into the meadow, using that broken branch as a guiding point. There could have been a trail camera or something further back. You just don't really know.
I will say this to really just nail that question question down. I mean, we already believe in Bigfoot, right? And that's a far-fetched thing to believe in for most people. So why would we not believe in possible tree breaks?
Well, no, I mean, I think, and here's another comment from Joe, and Joe has had a Bigfoot sighting. I've heard his story; it's pretty compelling. But he says, it's okay to surmise that Bigfoot could break trees for whatever reason. Maybe they do. But how do you prove that without direct observation? Just saying so many automatically jump to Sasquatch. I think, they're. I'm not saying you guys are doing this, but
none of us
so many people like just and what's actually maddening too is I've seen. The stuff that like bushcrafters do, like stuff that I've built in the past, lean-tos, structures that people make out in the woods that people are going into the woods and saying, oh, this was Bigfoot, when it's obviously most likely not. I mean, I think when it gets to breaks, it's a little bit more difficult to say. I mean, because there's a variety of possibilities, even stuff like the supposed nests in the Olympic project. I mean,
it's like, as a researcher,
still unknown.
Yeah, as a researcher, you want it to be Bigfoot, but I mean, still to this day, me and Ron and Jonathan are talking about what it could be. I mean,
right.
There's really no consensus on it. But like Ron said, and Jonathan did say, we were observing these things where potential activity was, and possible hair samples were found. So that's the only correlation between the two. But other than that, you really can't say for sure.
Right. I mean, you're casting a wide net. You're looking at, as you guys said, you're looking at any anomalies. You try to explain them away, whatever, and whether or not it's definitively Bigfoot, right? We don't know that, but you're just trying to kind of figure it out and piece it together. And I think it's just a good thing. But again, I think there's a lot of people definitely do jump the gun. Joe says, I'm not saying that is what Tate and company is doing, just brainstorming here. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, obviously, we welcome a good discussion. We want to be critical with this kind of stuff and, making big claims and all that sort of stuff. So
that's how you learn stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And no, but well, I guess this turned into the tree break discussion, huh? That's cool though. No, but I mean, in an area like that too, it's where you don't have that same amount of human traffic as you would say in a state park somewhere in another part of the country, where you're going to have a lot of people going out there, kids building structures, forts, bushcraft people. There's more of a chance of running into people as opposed to an area like Bluff Creek.
That's funny that you say that, because when we were in Washington, Ron and I were at the boat dock waiting for Terry and Stevie, and we obviously saw like kids, like a camp scout or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the word. But they're obviously cutting down these trees and building like TP along this one other tree. And I mean, you can obviously tell what's man-made and what isn't.
I do got to read this one comment, guys. All you crazies looking for Bigfoot are absolutely nuts. There are plenty of photos and proof that they live all over. Let it be already, okay? Guys, just let it go, all right? We know they're real. We have all the evidence. Obviously, that's why we're still debating this stuff. So we should all just pack it up and pack it in, right? That's makes sense to me.
Good.
I'm selling
Great.
all
Saves
my
me
stuff.
See you guys later.
All right, guys.
See you
What
never.
are you doing? Well, guys,
That's
it's been real. I'll see you later. And
I just
I'm
had to
gonna
read that. I thought that was
retire
hilarious.
my YouTube channel.
yeah,
That was really funny.
It's off to Loch Ness for me now.
Yeah.
yeah.
We're
Now
moving on to
we're
champ.
right.
other
Let's
things.
go.
Oh man, that is very interesting. I thought it was going to go just saying people looking for Bigfoot are nuts. I did not expect it was because we already know that they're real and all this kind of stuff. And
Well, we all know that the Zapruder film was the second or like first or second most analyzed besides the Patterson Gimlin film. So I say we try to find out if there was a second shooter.
Yeah, there we go. That's our next endeavor.
yeah,
Goodbye.
going full conspiracy
File,
theorist.
case closed. No.
Oh man, that's just funny. But yeah. Anyway, so Bluff Creek sounds like it was a great time. There was just a lot of things you guys got to document. Obviously, the possible kind of hair samples. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that ties into talking to Meldrum and other folks as well. If you guys are cool with talking about it, just if there's something that you don't want to put out there publicly, let me know.
I don't want to say the results of what we found. We found hair samples, but I don't want to say the results yet because I'm leaving that for the series. But
Can I say one thing about it without? I'm not going to reveal it, but we found a variety of different types of hair up there.
Yeah.
There were 3 distinctly different types. And what occurred to me and what I learned about tracking and looking for hair samples on trees like that was there were a couple of trees where we pulled the hair samples from. And it occurred to me to separate the samples from each site, right? They were still relatively close, but, I just figured, hey, different individuals potentially, just keep them separate to keep it safe. It did not occur to me to look at the nature of how the hairs were stuck on the tree. And I should have had a 3rd separate collection because there were hairs that were caught in the bark and wedged in the crevices of the branches and stuff from something, manipulating the branches. But then there were also hairs caught in the sap. And thinking about that and observing sign and tracking, I realized that was 2 different timestamps of how those hairs when those hairs got caught, because the sap would not have been immediate and present after the physical trauma to the tree. So you had something destroying the tree, and then you had something else get its hair caught in the sticky resin that bled out a week or 2 later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I should have, and thinking about it now, I should have collected a 3rd separate vial from everything caught in the tree sap.
And it was really cool because we were able to go to Cliff's Museum and have them analyze it, and then we went back a second time to just do our due diligence. So
Say that 5 times fast.
Do our due diligence. So
you went to Cliff's Museum twice, you're saying?
Yeah, we went to Cliff's Museum twice because we wanted to get like another. We had one.
Damon went there as well with a sample that he had.
Something turned out interesting, which will be in the finished episode, and then we went back again because we wanted to make sure, and it was that was interesting, and then obviously we got a hold of Meldrum and we went to go see Meldrum, and the conclusion we came up with that was pretty interesting too. So,
yeah, I got to talk to Meldrum about that actually when I was at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference. Him and I were speaking at it, and I got to And this was like 5 days after you guys were there. I mean, we're talking.
Yeah.
He literally was. I think he told you guys like, "Oh, I've got to go out of town like within the next few days."
He was.
I called you. He was actually asked us to come earlier in the day because he's leaving that like the next morning.
Right.
Pack up. But I called you, Alex, when I was leaving Dr. Meldrum's to tell you, and you were like in and out of reception in the smoke.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember he called me, and I like an hour drive. I was going to record an episode of a podcast, The Confessionals with Tony Merkel, and I was driving up, and he called me and he told me about that. And then I asked Meldrum about it. I was like, "Hey, so I heard you guys got visited by some numbskulls recently." He thought that was funny.
No, only very intelligent young men.
No, but he thought he said it was a really good discussion, and he thought it was interesting. Didn't say anything definitive about obviously what they were, but just thought it was cool that you guys had come in there and kind of decided to look into the results you had. You didn't just post it on Facebook and say, "Hey, we found Bigfoot hair." No follow up, nobody with a critical eye looking at it. As so often happens, I think, with this topic, where it just assumed that's the first thing.
I want to say how nice Meldrum is. If anybody has a chance,
he's incredible.
He was saying in the email, he had he didn't have a lot of time, but he ended up giving us at least an hour or two of his time.
I think it was 2.5 hours or something.
2.5 hours we were there.
What's funny? We all get excited talking about the subject and different things within it. He is genuinely, I didn't expect this. He's genuinely as excited as you are to talk about all this stuff. And he talks to you on a you-to-you level,
he really
you can just see his excitement. And he's just like another one of us in a sense, but way, way smarter.
My gosh. And at his age too. I mean, I saw him at this, this VIP dinner, whatever thing at the conference. And he was, I happened to be in the line with him because we were going down to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference, and one of the speakers dropped out, and they asked me to jump in. So I kind of was thrown into the event with Meldrum, and there's 60 people at a time waiting to speak with him. And he's giving every single person the time of day and talking to them, not just sort of brushing people off or saying, kind of to get them to hurry up. He would spend 20 minutes talking to one person and then do that 3 times in a row. I mean, I was just amazed. I'm like, how does this guy do this? He's not super young guy. So I was like, this, really just, and he talks to everyone on such that academic level too. So if you don't, some people have, it kind of goes right over their head, but very interesting.
Something cool that happened this trip. We met one of the managers at the, when we were in Portland. We met the manager, one of the managers for the Timberline Lodge.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny. So the first time we were there, Alex, I was flying my drone the day before you guys. I met up with you guys, and I had no problem. We went back there, and Eli was flying the drone, and somebody was like, "You can't do that," or whatever, right?
Oh yeah.
And then we went there again this summer, and we were flying the drone, and a guy comes walking over to us, and he was a manager, and we were like, "Oh man!" But he was like, "Dude, I totally, that's so awesome. Yeah, you're cool. And by the way, there's a park ranger over here, just letting you guys know, giving you a heads up." But he was super cool. So
they had sent him part of his job was to tell people not to fly drones. And
pretty
the funny
much
part was the guy was so cool, but it was just hilarious because he's talking to us and he's like, "Oh, you guys are up here looking for Bigfoot? No way, that's awesome!" And he starts telling us about he just got sponsored snowboarding. We're having this conversation.
Cool.
They're radioing him, "Hey, we need you over here, dude." He's like,
"Yeah,
oh, I got this altercation. I'm trying to break up this argument here in the parking lot. Sorry, guys." And then we start talking again, and they're like, "Hey, we could really use a hand." He's like, "Oh, sorry, just this de-escalating this potential fight here between these two families. Trying to take care of business." And he's like, "Anyway, guys, Bigfoot, that's awesome." And it's it was
on his break too, and everything.
He was getting with
covering his butt.
In the police department here soon.
Yeah, dude,
That's amazing.
It was fun. He was a cool guy. His Chandler, I think his name is.
And now his job's on the line because we just described him to a team.
They don't know who it is. They don't know who it is, right?
They don't know.
Sure, they got more than one manager doing that.
Is that Chandler on front half or back half?
Yeah, hopefully they never see this.
No, I don't think so.
Just want to read a quick comment here. My eye says, "Gotta go. Thank you all. Like and subscribe. The channel's in description. These nice people deserve support. Appreciate that, my eyes. Yeah, definitely check these guys out. They're great. They're entertaining. They do a good job. But anyway, moving on here. So let's talk a little bit about Bumping Lake, I guess. If you guys want to talk about Bumping Lake, Jonathan, you weren't there for that part, were you?
No, I wasn't there, so I'm going to be all ears on this one.
So let's talk about that in Idaho. I guess we could talk about either one, but
well, Jonathan was there for Idaho for sure.
I know you guys met up with obviously Tristan, who I've had on the show,
and Brent and Paul Graves.
Brent, who's in the chat, or at least was asking questions earlier. So, and Paul Graves too. So you guys got to go out there with some of the kind of Washington folks, obviously Tristan and them. So what was the initial kind of impression of Bumping Lake?
My initial impression was, wow, this place is really beautiful. And I was not expecting it to be so popular with people. And I'm thinking, like, how does this place that is so famous for Bigfoot have so many people at the same time? Like, it blew me away. Like, man.
What'd you think, Ron?
More or less the same too. It's kind of weird to get back there and find this big lake nestled in all, deep in these mountains, and it's really scenic, but then it's accessible to tons of people. And I think that, we were there for the busiest month of the year. July is when everybody wants to hit the water and beat off the summer heat. So that makes sense, but it was a little bit overwhelming just seeing.
I thought he was laughing at the fire thing beeping.
No. That's what Ron said.
I know. Hey.
Yeah, we're all still like 10 years old.
I was trying to keep the composure. I knew I was.
I'm sorry. I started laughing because Jonathan was laughing. I thought it was because I heard like the beep on someone's fire alarm.
It's my room.
Yeah.
Not the fire alarm, the indicator going off. So yeah,
I do that in Florida a lot.
I'm sorry, Ron. We totally derailed a totally legitimate point.
Right.
Yeah, high schoolers, apparently
there are lots of people there.
We can't do it seriously anymore.
Okay, for real though. Yeah, no, I mean that's something I've heard actually from other folks that talk about Bumping Lake, is that they like at Paul Graves too. I think when I was talking to him a while ago, was saying how back in the day he was one of the only people really that went out there. There wasn't a lot of folks that went out and investigated Bumping Lake or really knew about it for the Bigfoot stuff. It was just kind of like a wilderness lake. But now it seems like there's a lot of people that are more into going out there specifically because of Bigfoot, and maybe just because it's a beautiful location, like with the touristy kind of stuff. And I've had multiple people actually tell me that they think it's kind of like a little too populated nowadays with people.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really observe a whole lot of other Bigfoot groups, but they say that they encounter that. I'm sure it happens, if they go up there a couple times each year, right. There's probably, you start to cross paths with other people, especially because they're not going to those pay sites. They're going to the dispersed camping that's kind of a little bit in there. But it's got a good network of terrain. It spreads out around the lake, and so I think there's still potential there.
Oh yeah,
because there's lots of sites. There's lots of expansive woodland. So it's not like in the middle of downtown with square miles of developed communities. It is out there on the edge, on the fringe of something.
Yeah. Somebody, I'm not going to say the name or the place, but somebody told us of a great place to check out in the greater area. And we went there, and there happened to be a family camping there. And we were looking at it. It's like, this place is actually really far back in there to get to. The road is actually pretty gnarly. So unless somebody has a good Jeep, you're not going to be able to get in there. And it was really isolated too. It was probably one of the more isolated areas in the spot. So unfortunately, I think when I go back there, I want to go camp at that spot because I think it's going to be a really great area. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah, no, I think that spot that we checked out had a lot of potential, but it just so happened to be, limited camping there, and somebody was there. So somebody had gone up the trail. I think going in a different season when it's not so popular, and then going to one of those sites off the beaten path, like,
I agree.
yeah, it would definitely be pretty cool.
Well, so I pulled up kind of Google Earth to look at this because I remember when I had Tristan on and we played those sounds that he recorded out there, which were pretty insane and hard to explain. I remember we looked at the Google Earth of the area, and I mean the area seems around pretty conducive. Just seems like that lake itself just gets a lot of people. But look at this. This is in the wintertime. That road essentially is just completely cut off. I mean, so if you're able to get in there, let's say either hike in or maybe you take a snow machine in there. I don't know if that's legal or not. Again, I don't know, but like that might be just an interesting time to be in there. Obviously, just so here you go. So people are probably taking their ATVs if it's packed in enough. I mean, you might be able to do that, but just looking at it on the map, I remember when I was talking to Tristan, I don't know if we did this on air or not, but we were looking terrain-wise. Is this the kind of trail you're talking about where you're going even like there's a road clearly, and it looks like just a dirt road that goes up way up into here, and there's a Granite Lake dispersed camping area up here, which is just
I didn't see that lake.
Look at
from
this,
what they were saying, the road, yeah, that's beautiful.
This looks amazing. I mean, this looks like an area you really would have to get in there with pretty capable kind of vehicle.
Yeah. Well, I got a new one now, so I can get up there.
Because look at that. So I mean, you may have all the people and everything down in this area, right? And maybe along some of these roads, but once you get up into here, I mean, you see these areas. How often do people just hike or backpack, spend a few days bushwhacking out into this area? I mean, walk the river. Does that happen often? I don't know. I mean, this is just obviously a question, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like most people who go there go to the lake.
They probably go to this section because you've got an entire beach here, basically, and whatever this whole thing is going on. There's a snow park. I don't know what
that's actually a dam right there.
Oh, it's a dam. Okay, that makes sense. So, but just the surrounding area, you've just got so much. I mean, how many people go in? How many people go into here?
In a bowl. Right? Yeah, probably nobody.
I mean, that would be a mountaineering trip over this area here.
Well, the thing is, like, it's really popular with Bigfooters, so maybe only Bigfooters and like hardcore backpackers will do it. But other than that, nobody else.
Well, because you think about it, most Bigfooters, for the most part, like majority of them, are still just going to go drive into a primitive camp, which is fine. I mean, we all do that too. But imagine just hiking straight up into an area that nobody goes to. That's obviously takes a lot more dedication, and that may not be feasible on a simple weekend trip. But
no.
Wow, look at Mount Rainier. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I have plans to get back up in Bumping Lake.
Yeah, I feel like I would want to just explore some of these back roads if you had a capable vehicle.
I want to go up to that lake that you saw, that one that you
this
pulled
one
up
right
on
up here. Yeah, this is Granite Lake dispersed camping area. That looks amazing. And looks like that's the end of the road up here. Well, no, maybe it goes around here. But let's say you set up camp here a few days. You could hike into some of these areas out here. I mean, bushwhack in.
You would be by nobody either. I mean, I don't even think anybody would be up there.
I mean, look at this. Miners Ridge. I mean, that's just people taking dirt bikes up there. So it's not completely inaccessible. Obviously, here's Bumping Lake, but yeah, pretty interesting. Just wanted to kind of look at that. Very cool. So Bumping Lake, definitely a place that was interesting. Anything interesting happened? I know
there were some things that happened. I don't know, Ron. What do you think?
I don't know. We had some stuff. I know that you want to talk about some of that on the film, but it definitely seemed like one of the quieter places from what I observed. Not what other people in the other camps brought forward, but
Right.
Yeah,
For me, I didn't personally observe anything
crazy.
there.
Sure.
I mean, like we were only there for a few days. I mean, and it was our first time, so I'm not saying there isn't stuff that happens there.
Right. Right. Of course.
But I'm sure there is, no doubt. But we were just probably there at the wrong time, or we were
just
just there when they weren't there.
in terms of the approach, from what I understand, is you were obviously there with Brent and Paul and Tristan, and you guys sort of split up a little bit. That's the kind of approach you took.
We had two different camps. The first night they were with us, and then like their last two nights we were at different camps. And so I think that was good in a way because nobody else would occupy those camps except for us, who we knew that were squatchers, and we would knew what would be going on, and we could talk to each other. So we were in one camp, so nobody would take that one, and they were down the road a mile, and they would take that camp, and so we would have these camps kind of preoccupied to do what we wanted to do. So we know that anybody else, we would know what's going on. If something Bigfoot really was happening, we could confirm with one another.
Awesome. Very cool.
And then Paul Graves gave me a few tracks up there. He gave me this one.
Oh, sweet. Is that one that he found in that area?
No, the Deduck Springs, 1992.
Is that one of his casts, or is that?
Probably could have been. Yeah, he said. Well, he said he has molds for these. So I don't know if he has. I don't know if they're his or not. And then Biscuit Ridge, April 21st, 1994.
Oh, cool.
So, a couple of cool things.
I don't think I've heard those ones. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, Bumping Lake, definitely interesting. Obviously, with all the things that have happened over there over the years and just the stories, seems like it's a fascinating area. But lastly, I do want to talk about you guys. Idaho is part of it as well, right?
Yep, Idaho. That was our buddy Jonathan. Found some good spots.
Yeah. So Jonathan, obviously you're in Idaho now. You want to talk a little bit about kind of what you've seen so far there and kind of how that went and the potential.
So I've been in Idaho. It'll be 1 year this Thursday. And through that, I've made a lot of trips to the mountains, did a lot of just like having conversations with people and bringing up the Bigfoot subject when the timing's right and you feel it's right, you know. And I was kind of surprised by the few responses I got. I went to a place that had 2 BFRO sightings, some screams recorded not too far away. And our buddy Damon was up there at Bluff Creek that we viewed as drone footage earlier. He used to live in Idaho, and he found what he thinks is a juvenile's footprint, which it looks like a person's just a bare foot, you know, not very big, but it's in the middle of nowhere, you know. So he thought it was interesting. He shared that picture with me. There's a few other really good BFR reports not too far away. So there's this kind of like general vicinity that I've been focusing on and talking to people. And one of the gentlemen I talked to actually owns a resort up there. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's this dirt road to get there. It takes like 2 hours from Boise. And brought it up with him, and he kind of told me, I think I saw something right behind this resort a couple weeks ago. We were like, no way. And he says, yeah, I found some fresh bear scat on the trail up there. My brother did, because he sent his brother up there to go look for whatever he saw. Then they found fresh bear scat. He said, it was probably a bear that I saw. I said, well, what do you think you saw? He says, I don't know. It looked kind of like a guy running right at dusk. And it was funny. I recently went in that direction camping with my family. It happened to like spark up the conversation. And another guy told me he had something weird happen with trees being pushed down in sort of a systematic way. Like they'd start walking, tree would be pushed down. They'd stop and watch and watch and watch, and then keep walking. Tree gets pushed down, like small trees, and they can see them. It was really weird. But we went to a couple spots, and I mean, one spot looked like, all right, this has potential. And at night we may have heard something. It was kind of weird. Tate went, shh, quiet. And we just shut up. And then you just hear. So was that a tree knock? It sounded exactly like a tree knock. So yeah, it was weird. And
what area is this in? Road. If you don't mind saying, like specifically.
Deadwood Reservoir. We'll go there, and it's a central location to all this. So if you go to Deadwood Reservoir, you'll see there's a road that leads in. Now, there's 3 valleys in particular that I'm kind of looking at and that I've had reports, pretty good reports. You know, you read BFR reports, some are really crappy, and you're like, I think that maybe these people saw a bear. This is like a husband and wife both saw one on their ATV once. So you zoom in there and you'll see that there are these like kind of surrounding valleys to the left of it, and the left of it's where we went, but we also went south of that reservoir. We didn't.
You're right. Sorry.
We were just south of it on a road on a little outcrop there. So, but yeah, there's this valley that goes straight to the reservoir where there's been a lot of activity, and we think probably heard a knock. It was really fun, and then we woke up and found these big old black bear tracks. What would you say, around 60 yards from where we were, where we slept?
Yeah.
So a bear did walk by, and then like within a 4 to 5 about 4 hour period that we were sleeping.
So I mean, you've got these valleys and rivers and similar kind of terrain to other parts of Northwest. That's really cool. I'm just kind of enjoying looking at all this.
Yeah, and just to the bottom left of your screen is where Silver Creek is, and that's where those couple. Exactly right there. Yeah, you'll see Tate. So you just keep going up about a quarter mile from that Tate Creek campground. Keep going up. Actually, it's further up.
Up this way?
Yeah, to the right now. So you go up to the right. Boiling Springs, that campground has an ABFRO report. Take it with a grain of salt, but sounds decent enough. And then there's that road connecting right there that leads you to the other side. Yeah, there's some hot springs and campgrounds, and
nice.
These places are frequented by people, but we were able to go up on a weekend. No, it was during the week, but we actually went up there, and we saw nobody camped along where we first camped at the first campsite of 2.
And then our second spot, we got lucky all the way at the very end, like at least a mile past people, and there was nobody there.
Yeah, and that was an awesome campground right alongside the community, green and lush.
Jonathan,
awesome. I drove that road. Driven that road before.
Look at this road. This looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan had a pretty good scare when we got to that second spot.
Oh man, dude! I learned how to track very quickly.
That almost took the wind out of our sails when that happened.
Mm-hmm. I lost my thermal imager that I had just purchased.
Oh no!
So I took a chance. Instead, I probably dropped it somewhere back at camp. So I drove 2 hours back to the other camp. And that morning, me and Ron had walked into the brush to find some whatever we were hearing. And we were there. I was in there for like maybe 20 minutes just listening for this thing, recording. This is the type of stuff that you don't hear about that Bigfooters do. Just standing there for like 20 minutes, just figuring out what's making these sounds like that. Sounds like it's going back and forth.
That's not what you see on TV. You don't see people standing around for 20 minutes of airtime on TV, just like, is that a train?
Yeah.
Was that the AGM that you misplaced, or?
Huh?
Was that the AGM? Which one was that?
Yeah, that AGM Taipan T10. And I ended up tracking myself. I found like my print here. I found a twist, so I said, I think I changed my direction there. And I walked right up to it. It was like amazing. So I found my, that thing cost me what, $570 or something like that. So
right on. I mean, that's scary.
That was the best find,
I wish we were as lucky in West Virginia where we lost one of the handy cameras that we'd been filming with, and we'd put it on top of the car. It was one of these guys, and it had a mic and everything, and it must have been on the top of the car. We left it. It was in Dolly Sod's wilderness area in West Virginia. If you've ever been up there, Ron, beautiful spot. And it was probably on top of the car, and it's somewhere either somebody took it or it's on the side of the mountain now, and that was not fun. So I know the feeling of your heart sinking when you've lost equipment or misplaced it.
Oh man.
So I'm glad you're able to find it at least.
You found it. I found it. It was miraculous. It was pretty cool. But I'm going to keep researching this area, and you'll see our adventure out there. It was awesome. It was a good time.
Definitely.
Great scenery.
I'm excited to see it. Now, I have a question for Ron and Tate. Jonathan, you're obviously kind of in Idaho now, and you kind of get a feel for the area. Ron and Tate, you guys have obviously been up and down the Pacific Northwest at this point. Was this the first kind of foray into Idaho, and then what were your guys' impressions? So, I mean, Ron, why don't you start us out?
For me, yes, I was. It's my first time really doing any type of squatching in Idaho. I almost made time for it on the way back last year, when we were up at Bluff Creek, and years before, like a long time ago, I read the Becky Cook's book, Bigfoot Lives in Idaho. And so I had wanted to get out there for a while, and I had a friend that actually lived out there and was sort of interested in Bigfoot, and I was gonna meet up, but he has since moved, and so I really didn't have a good opportunity to go in there except for just finding a way to make it work. So it really ended up working out with Jonathan moving up there and wanting to look into it and check it out. And it's I think it's one of those hidden gems in the PNW for Bigfoot research, because there's more of a culture for the Bigfoot stuff in Washington and Oregon, and you got your Bluff Creek in Northern California, you got the Olympic Peninsula, you got Bumping Lake, Gifford
Mount
Pinchot
Hood, yeah.
National Forest, like Mount Hood, like all of these areas, like the Bigfooters know to go there. And in Idaho, I think there's people keeping tabs on it, obviously, and there are books being written about sightings in that state, but it doesn't have that overexposure that can sometimes muddy the water. And so when you get out to the right spots, like, you have all the potential of the Bluff Creek area, but maybe a little less confusion that can get involved. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I liked it.
A lot of times people forget that Idaho is kind of parts of Idaho are part of the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's in that area where it's sort of nestled between Montana and Utah and Wyoming, that whole area. Well, not Utah, but Wyoming. So it's kind of in this weird in-between sort of category. But it looks amazing. I mean, Tate, what was your takeaway?
I liked it a lot. I mean, we are already worn out hitting the ground running in Bluff Creek. So when we got to Portland, we were just so worn out and exhausted from that, just packing up camp every night in Bluff Creek. And then it was my first time to Washington. So I think when we got to Washington, we were still kind of burnt out a little bit. So we took it easy there. And then when we got met up with Jonathan in Idaho, it was a breath of fresh air. And I enjoyed Idaho a lot. It reminded me, honestly, of my thermal area sighting because of how dry it was, like kind of that pine desert, mountainous region. I don't know if you got that same feeling, Jonathan, but I was like, this kind of is similar. They're most definitely here because, obviously there's sightings, like Ron said, in the state, but it's not overly popular like California would be or Bumping Lake. But I enjoyed it a lot. I definitely want to get back out there.
Yeah. Up north in Idaho, they have a lot more activity, a lot more researchers keeping tabs on stuff. I think it's a lot more scarce. I just think maybe they're not here. Maybe there's no one looking for them. I don't know. But I do know a handful of people that have had some experiences they can't explain. I'm friends with a guy named Rob Bozzuto, and he was on Finding Bigfoot, actually, for the Idaho episode, the baked potato one. And he had an experience, not far from here, maybe 2.5, 3 hours from my doorstep. They're up here. They're scattered around. And if anybody has any Idaho stories that maybe somebody hasn't heard, throw them my way. I'll go out there and see what it gives. Yeah,
I mean, for me, it's interesting. I haven't been out there. I'd really like to. Obviously, we're going to come visit you there, Jonathan, at some point here. But, looking at the kind of, obviously you got Boise down here, and then you just have these mountain chains start right up. And as you mentioned, the northern part of the state is clearly just so much more woods, and you've got all these little mountain chains like here. Well, this is technically Montana, but it's all along that sort of right along the border. I mean, it's divided between the two states, essentially, Idaho and Montana on this side. It reminds me, or it looks a lot to me like what you have out in Utah and Colorado, where there's some really great spots out in Colorado, and because that's all part of the Rocky Mountains, that section of Idaho. So it's different. It's different in the sense from the Pacific Northwest, the Cascades, where it's, a lot more of those, kind of solitary mountains, and a lot of the other mountains, the big ones that are, 14,000 feet plus. And then you have the smaller ones around. Whereas what I really like about the Rockies, and especially one of my favorite spots, the High Uinta, is that Eli and I backpacked into last summer and had some pretty interesting stuff happen, is where, the mountains are all pretty uniform. You don't have just one monolithic mountain like Mount Hood or Mount Rainier or Mount Shasta sticking out that you can see forever. It's kind of, once you're in one of these little valleys, I mean, you just see peaks all around you. And that's the first thing I noticed when I looked at, obviously this is the Uinta mountain range. And then as soon as I go up to that section, Idaho, I mean, it's a very similar kind of formation of mountain chains where there's so many little valleys and little places where, I mean, you could just get lost in essentially. And there's really no way over them unless you want to mountaineer straight up over the mountain. So if you have, and you have moose and other animals just living in these areas, I mean, that's what we experienced in Utah. So it's really cool for me to just be able to see the geography here. And I mean, it makes sense that if something is trying to stay hidden, obviously look at this area. I mean, you just have, it's just ridiculous how much space there is out here and resources and that sort of thing. And people typically stick into the trails and that sort of thing. So definitely makes one wonder.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Idaho's a great state. I need to get back there and up in that area again. I want to go to that place we were at that last night we were there, and I think that night was probably the most brutal night of all the nights we've been camping because we're already exhausted, and then we had to wake up at 5 something because we had a 6 hour.
We were like
5:15.
laughing when we were deciding what time to wake up because we were so beat. Like,
so we had to leave at like 5:15 or 5:30 to drive to Pocatello, which is 6 hours away, to get to
really?
Mills. Yeah,
6 hours from where you were in the mountains.
Yeah, from our camp to Idaho State University, 6 hours.
Oof.
So we had to wake up after like a night of squatching. We stayed up around the fire and did a lot of listening, and woke up super early and packed it up and got out of there.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was brutal, but I think meeting up with Mildred made it all worth it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably well worth the trip then. But
yeah.
Very cool. So, I mean, sounds all in all, it's going to be an interesting series. We're going to get to see some of this beautiful terrain, obviously, with the videography. You're obviously deploying a drone in a lot of places. You're also using a Sony Handycam, which obviously you've had lots of experience with us using these on our trips, and they're great.
I did something different in post. Because like normally it's green night vision on the Handycam. I like the whole black and white, so I've been doing that.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
That's cool.
I like the ominous effect that the black and white has versus the green.
Definitely interesting. Right on. So I'm just going to look at a few of the comments. I know there are some comments and questions. Here's one from Salvatore Bruner. It says, Tate, how's the beer in Idaho?
The beer is great.
Oh, I got you that Laughing Dog Huckleberry, because Huckleberry's like the thing around here. So I got him this Huckleberry Ale, Huckleberry Cream by Laughing Dog Brewery.
That was good.
And I had to show them a good Idaho beer.
Oh, nice. Right on. Let's see. David Perkins says you need to do a whole expedition on horseback. It'll be fun to watch.
I agree.
Definitely. That's something we've all talked about doing something like this.
Yeah.
We did it. We didn't really do it. I wouldn't say it was an expedition, but when Eli and I were in Colorado, we stayed for a few days on this property with a history of activity where they had horses, and we went like for a 2-3 hour horse. Oh, maybe it was actually like 4 hours. We went out, did some exploring on horseback. If that was not like doing it overnight. If
you guys do a Branson episode, I have family there that has horses, and I grew up around horses, so I could be the guide too. So
that'd be cool. Yeah, that's the thing is I'm not really experienced with horses, and it's one thing to, I know how to ride a horse, whatever, but it's different to take a horse on a wilderness trek and have it be your sole transportation out in the bush than, going out for like a day excursion or whatever. You really got to be with somebody who knows what they're doing. So we'd obviously get the proper people, but that would be really cool. The only issue with that is, there's certain areas you're limited to going on horseback nowadays. It's not like back in the days, the Wild West, where you could basically go anywhere.
Just go anywhere. Yeah.
I know even Finding Bigfoot ran into that problem. They couldn't take horses down to the Patterson-Gimlin film site because
they couldn't legally
the national forest.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let them. So too many rules and regulations in the world nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
No joke.
Something like that.
So we've got Outback Orchard asks, from an old hunter, why do you rarely hear Bigfooters talking about looking for them by finding the best food sources? I don't know. I mean, I think it's always important. Like, one of my biggest things that I look for are, can an environment support prey species and large ungulates, whether it be moose, particularly moose. I like to focus on that. A lot of the areas that I'm in are in moose country. Does an area support something as large as a moose, which is the largest terrestrial animal in North America, essentially, kind of with the polar bear? I think they're sort of tied, but moose is in Alaska, or moose come out on top. So you've got elk and deer. I think a lot of people do look at that as a metric for, what is the possible prey sources like. Obviously, water sources is a big one. We always talk about you need water if you're going to survive. So
I agree. I think that's one of the things, besides like looking for the water sources, where are the deer and food, where's the food at? I mean, because obviously if there's not going to be any food there, then why would they want to be there? That's something I actually preach a lot, is like when I tell somebody if they want to get into looking for Bigfoot, like pretend to be a hunter and find the deer, and then look for the Bigfoots after that. Because wherever there's deer, there's obviously going to be prey around, or predators around, like bear or mountain lion if you're in an area that has them, even coyotes. So I think looking for that kind of stuff is one of the most important things to do, in my opinion.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to kind of, because Bigfoot has been observed eating so many different things, both plant and animal matter. Like it's difficult to really lock it down to a science, because each regional population is going to have different ratios, different available food sources, and in different quantities of ingesting it. So it could be difficult to kind of pin it down, but areas with any type of available food are areas you want to be in. But then you have to think, like, okay, why are there wildlife here? Is it because it's a wildlife refuge and it's still accessible to the public? Are there other reasons why Bigfoot might not want to be there? At the end of the day, like you're finding something with a lot of mutual interests as, a wildlife observer, but it's going to have its own motivations too. So yeah, I try to find areas that have a variety of wildlife in one place, but then I'm also, in the back of my mind, prepared to just see wildlife and not necessarily Bigfoot, because I don't know if that's enough of a motivator to bring Bigfoot to that specific location, because you're thinking that he's getting ready to take on a cow elk or a bull elk that's grazing in a prairie, but the local population might favor the bountiful salmon berries that are up the mountain at that time of the year. So maybe the elk is something, or the deer is something that they start to target later in the summer when those berry crops start to deplete.
Or maybe winter.
You have to know a lot. You have to know a lot.
Well, that's the good thing about, like you said, with the observation, there have been sightings. I mean, at least, and I know of a few credible ones of people describing either, a hog being carried or a deer up here in New England, when berry season, when berries are coming into season, which is, kind of August time, blueberries, there's a lot of sightings I've heard over the years of people seeing what they thought was a black bear, and it turns out to be, something hairy man-like. So that there are different food sources. So it seems like we're dealing with an omnivore, not something that's solely carnivore. And I mean, we know, chimps are omnivores. Gorillas, I think, are more simply herbivores. I think they focus mostly on vegetation. I think maybe the same with orangutans, but chimps certainly divulge into different types of food sources. Like humans, we are obviously omnivores. I mean, as much as maybe some vegans or pure carnivores may try to convince you otherwise, we are. I mean, the way our teeth are structured is clearly made for both meat and non-meat food sources. So If we can infer at least that much from observable kind of encounters with different types of food sources, maybe that's a way we can. And again, I think just looking back at that, for me, a big thing is the biological kind of metrics of can an area support something as large as elk and moose and that sort of thing, and that kind of gives me the indication that it's probably a somewhat healthy environment that could possibly allow for something like a Sasquatch to traverse through, maybe not live there the whole time, maybe live there the whole time. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different sort of factors you should look, and obviously water sources are a big one too. That's why I brought it up earlier.
I could just add one thing, like in the Sierras, we communicate with a guy that goes up there a lot, and for the past, maybe it's got to be over 10 years now, maybe 13 years. He's narrowed it down, and he and a group that travels with him are absolutely certain that the Sasquatch move with the deer, so they wait for deer season. He's also a deer hunter, so that benefits him. So he's in the mountains up there no matter what, and he talks to other deer hunters, and they've had weird experiences. So he's 110% convinced that the Bigfoots moved through there in this part of the Sierras in late August, early September. That's when the deer roll by he says it's a 2-week time frame, and that's when everything seems to happen up there. So there are people that are using the animal migration in certain places to track Bigfoot. And we've seen primates eat meat too. Did you watch that? The craziest chimp group of chimps in the world, whatever the heck that video.
The ones that go to war, they cannibalize other chimps too. I mean,
exactly, and they eat their meat like chicken. So,
they eat other monkeys. They that's what I was saying. Like, I'm not positive about gorillas and orangutans. I think they're more sticking to plant diets, but I know chimps, they eat like smaller monkeys. They will kill them and eat them. They'll even eat other chimps. So that's and again, the way we're designed is clearly for omnivorous diet. I mean, we can eat a lot of different types of foods as a species. Brian says blueberry season now. I just ate way too many on my last hike and paid the price here in the Northeast New Hampshire. Yeah, you can overload on them. I mean, I've been up hiking in Maine at the top of the mountain, like 4,000 plus feet, and you find a blueberry patch, and it's like, oh, might as well. Hey, have at it, right? Couldn't be fresher than that. So here, Joe corrected and said, gorillas are strictly herbivores, Alex. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just wasn't sure. I know chimps are, I think, one of the only other non-human primates that's
there have been some observations of gorillas eating insects.
Okay.
Similar to like what we've seen chimps do, like termites and things like that. They've kind of been known to eat bugs on occasion. And then there used to be a show on Animal Planet. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a sanctuary for orangutans. And in the show, they actually filmed, it was a monsoon season wherever they were on the sanctuary. And the water started to recede after all the flooding. And some of the local catfish from the river got stranded in a puddle, and the water was dropping each day. And these orangutans actually got in there and were curious as to what was swimming around in the puddle. And they ended up eating a lot of these fish. Just they explored it as a new potential food source, and it was readily available. And so there's been at least the one case where orangutans have eaten fish, and then a couple of cases where gorillas have been eating insects. So beyond that, I don't know.
I just looked it up, actually. It says that all basically chimps, gorillas, bonobos, they're all omnivores. But it says, orangutan specifically, fruits make up more than 60% of their diet, which also includes leaves, bark, flowers, and insects. So I guess I was totally wrong. But chimps seem to be the most indulgent in meat because, like you said, there's footage of them eating other monkeys and eating other chimps, which is something pretty crazy. But and again, there's human cannibals too, so that's not that unusual for great apes. But definitely an interesting conversation. Now, there was something I wanted to read, a comment. Let's see if I can find it. It's just about gear. Oh, here we go. Hike with Mike. Hey there, Mike. He says, I put reflective tape on all my gear in case I lose something. It's a pretty good tip, actually.
Man, that's smart.
That is not a bad idea.
There's also they also make glow in the dark.
Go ahead, Ron.
I was just gonna say they also make glow in the dark paint too. So if you have something that you could just dab the end of a knife or a flashlight that's off or something with a little bit of that glow in the dark paint, and it works similar in the dark. You can find things in the tent or outside if you don't have a fire.
Yeah, that reminds me of that the secret stuff. They need a black light to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You do with that too, I guess. I don't know. It just depends. But hopefully don't lose your gear. I mean, we've all been there. Losing that handy cam was an absolute bummer. But that was, it wasn't at night or anything. It was just on top of a car and was left there, and probably in the side of a West Virginia mountain somewhere. Maybe there's a Sasquatch in West Virginia walking around with that camera.
I might throw something like reflective tape, like a strip of it on my therm, just in case. Like I'm buying a lanyard for it and stuff. Not going to happen again, but it's not going to hurt to do, right? So that's a great suggestion.
Then they make those little tags. They make those little tracker tags you can put on too and track it through your phone with an app.
That's
or like keys and stuff like that.
Tape.
Yeah, they're not as bad as you might. There's a lot of options. Anyway.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting comment from Outback Orchard who says, I had an experience with a possible Bigfoot at an old abandoned apple orchard while deer hunting. This area has tons of fruits and tons of food and cover in water. It sounds like a lot of New England. I mean, I've heard of stories of apples being raided. I mean, one of the cases I worked was in the first Beyond the Trail film we did. The guy had his entire pear tree cleaned in one night. I mean, huge pear tree clean. There was no mess under it. We're talking an area where they're used to having deer and moose coming in, to the point where they would cover the trees with, fence so that the moose and the deer couldn't get in. And, there's no mess, and this entire tree was cleaned out. There's also a story from northern New Hampshire of two hunters out in an area where there were some old apple orchards. And they saw this Sasquatch, I guess, eating apples, and it realized they were there, and it kind of behaved almost drunken. It was stumbling around and actually freaked out the hunters to the point where one of them did not want to ever go back to that spot, at least from what I heard from that story. So
I think that was me.
Probably Tate. It was probably Tate.
So did they suspect it was eating maybe the fermented apples at the bottom?
That's what I mean. That's what was kind of what we're inferring, at least from the encounter. They described it as looking like a drunk Bigfoot, and it happened to be near apple orchards. So you put one and two together. Fermented apples make sense, right? I mean, bears and other animals will do that, but how many fermented apples do you have to eat to get that wasted if you're a Squatch? I don't know. It's interesting to think about, though. But Salvatore Bruno says, can you use a drone and call blast Sasquatch sounds? Ohio Howl, question mark, if current technology allows it.
No, hey, let's not talk about it.
Is that something you've tried?
Right.
Last time I said an idea that I had, we all know what happened.
He talks about an idea on the show, and next thing you know, it's on.
Well, next thing you know, you'll see it on national TV or
let's
Discovery Channel. Oh man, that's funny.
That did cross our minds and out there.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's pretty
Tate
funny.
Tate had that idea out there while we were at Laird Meadow, but I mean, there's nothing to give away because we didn't do it. So
yeah, but I still don't want to say it because I want to try it.
Let's say it and then see if they do it, and then we know.
Then we know what's going.
So Tate's idea was to take a drone and hang one of those small animal collars that like blast sound at an incredible rate, and you can do like deer in distress, coyotes attacking, and he was like, let's tie it onto there, fly it all around the meadow, and just keep like flying and flying around and making this noise and lure something in, some sort of wildlife. So if you're listening out there,
if you're listening, you know who you are, and we know we're on to you.
We know what's going on.
If we see this in 6 months on Discovery Channel,
Jonathan was trying to trick me because he was saying, I was talking to somebody that we know, and he was like, I can't. You were trying to trick me. I can't remember what you said.
I told you your own idea back to you and said that somebody else was thinking about it, and you're like,
"Oh, that's right."
No, I came up with that idea. So This has happened before. That's why we bring it up. But.
Oh, random comment real quick, but this is in regards to the Apple stuff we were talking about just now. But Papa Craig C says, Nana and I were parked in a volunteer cherry orchard a few years ago. She saw one looking in the camper window. The next day, cherry trees were bare. The cherry trees were bare. Oh, interesting. So,
Oh, wow.
another, opportunistic food source. Why not? Who doesn't like apples and cherries? I mean, why not, right? Lots of other animals are trying to get in there and eat all that stuff. But, yeah, well, kind of as we close it up here, guys, definitely been an interesting discussion. Any kind of final thoughts about sort of you guys can each give up your thoughts about this past summer, some of the work you guys did out there. You definitely put in the groundwork, boots on the ground for sure. And overall, how do you guys think it went?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I'll say that, man, Bluff Creek, we did it pretty much the way we wanted to do it. Every trip has its expiration. Bigfoot in a copy. There we go. Word. So we did it almost the way we wanted to do it. We camped in all these different spots just because we always wanted to. So we did move around, camp a lot. We also got to spend time with like the other people who were there, and it was cool because you had such a great amount of people. Like you had like these 11 people there. All of them, like I said, had a ton of experience. All cool people, and yeah, we really hit it pretty hard. I guess stayed up late night every night, and I
Not
feel like
15
we walked
minutes.
away with the
Not 15 minutes.
Well, us, not 15 minutes, but Tate. So no, we went out there. It was really neat, and the stuff we walked away with was much different. It's like it was a very successful expedition, whether it brought us answers or not. It brought a lot of anomalies, and when I say we always look for anomalies, we have footprint casts, strange hair that's unexplained, that might have an explanation of some sort, and you'll see Tate's video. And what else? A bark howl that we recorded that, it's been listened to and analyzed by like Chris Spencer. He sent me back a couple versions of stuff I didn't even hear that was recorded. And he's really good with that audio. And, it was very suspect to him. Not definitive, but very suspect. And, you'll be able to hear that audio, that yell. And yeah, but it was just so cool. We walked away with a lot this time.
Mm-hmm.
Ron?
Yeah, it's I was there for a lot of those interesting moments on this trip. This whole year for me, and this is really a continuation of last year, which was also a pretty active, good year, and we were all a part of last year in the Bluff Creek area. But man, I'm just thinking about the streak of fortunate observation, and to the point where I have to check myself and be like, look, hold on, is this actually Bigfoot? Or is there another explanation? But I'm just reflecting on the last 2 years, and from everything that we observed in the Bluff Creek area to the audio I captured in the Mount Hood area, going into this year, a lot of the stuff that occurred when we were doing our investigation up in Alaska, there was a lot of really interesting things that kind of unfolded there. And then going right back into Bluff Creek and pulling alleged tracks, interesting hairs, and then some potential audio too. So, and that's not even all of it. If I sat down and said, well, what about the knock? We heard a knock in Idaho. I heard a knock in returning to an area that I hadn't been to in 4 years, where I suspected I saw something. I thought it was a stump, but I don't know. Now I'm starting to question that again. And on that follow-up, I recorded a knock. So I don't know what we're doing right, but as a collective group, we're starting to bring more to the table, and I'm pretty sure that it's not that we're just all becoming so eccentric and involved in the field that everything is Bigfoot. We started off cautious, and we haven't lost that, but we're also honing in on something, and we're looking at the data and making critically thought, calculated decisions, and it's yielding results. So results that we haven't gotten in the decade plus that we all have behind our belts here. So it's, if it was ever a time to be, to make up your Bigfoot evidence and do it, and have a childlike imagination on the subject, then that would have happened to us all 8 years ago, not a decade in, where we've been learning more about not just Bigfoot as a subject, but as from corresponding fields of study. So utilizing what we know about anthropology, North American wildlife behavior, and just wilderness bushcraft, like that's all taking us somewhere, and we're getting something out of it. And that's awesome. That's super cool to see that. To see us kind of taking the lead and still having that legitimacy, which I can't say for other groups or circles of entertainment.
Yeah, definitely. Tate, any closing thoughts?
I agree with everything Ron and Jonathan said, and I think that the fact that we've gone out in the field several times together, we kind of know how each other's mind works and like the research side of it, so we're kind of on the same page. And then this trip too is definitely a learning experience. It teaches you more of what to do in the future versus what not to do. And I think, like Ron said, we're getting better each year, especially as a group, because we work so well together. So we kind of like, if we have an idea, we could talk about it. If we have thoughts we would think it is, we talk about it and say what it is or what it isn't. And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of groups because they don't mesh well enough. And the fact that a lot of these groups are older in age and we're younger, I think that's to our advantage too. I'm just saying.
No, I hear you. As Joe says, keep going, guys. The younger generation needs to step up. Us old guys are getting too long in the tooth.
Yeah.
We're here to learn, man. We're here to learn from you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys have been doing it for like decades, and it's like we're still, I'm on like year 10. So I'm all ears, and that's the coolest thing. You learn so much about everything that's involved. Wildlife, we have these discussions about trees and hairs, and in the process, what do we learn? We learn how trees break. We learn about snow load. We learn about animals that scratch themselves in trees. We learn about the hairs that they leave and what they look like under a microscope and why. It's like it just never stops. It never stops. Your knowledge is like a rolling snowball. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So yeah,
I just keep getting these bots. Sorry, I don't know what is going on with this chat.
Got you.
But I totally hear you. I mean, I think there's a reason, like I was saying earlier, that you guys are sort of my go-to dudes. You're, I love the kind of team dynamic we have. Like I said at the beginning, we're all pretty much, we couldn't be in more different corners of the world. But what's so cool is, if we want to go squatching in the Midwest, we're obviously going to, contact Ron and let's go hit up the Northwoods of Wisconsin or whatever. When I get to Idaho, obviously we're going to go hang out with Jonathan. Florida, I mean, we're already making kind of potential new plans for Florida. Tate's down there. I mean, we did our epic kind of insane adventure down in the South this past winter with Tate.
I think those potential new plans are going to be even more epic.
Yeah. So, I'm up here in the Northeast. So obviously whenever people want to come up here, so it's cool to have that dynamic. And I think just the way that because we all produce content about this sort of stuff. We're not just, just talking about it on a live stream, right? Everyone has their own different kind of documentaries that they're doing and different ways of covering it and disseminating that information and promoting sort of kind of a skeptical look at the topic in the sense that, yes, we are learning about the Bigfoot subject a lot. You just spend a lot of time around people, different eyewitnesses, different researchers. You realize, what kind of drives them? Are certain people credible? You see all the BS online. Well, yes, that can be discouraging at times, but it just sort of, I don't know, for me, it's not as discouraging as I think some people take it when there's a new hoax out and it leads to a lot of people getting burnt out and really, they just don't want anything to do with the subject anymore or they're reluctantly looking into it. And I think we're still fresh enough that we're not completely, sick of seeing the same Facebook hoax recycled for, every single year. I mean, it does get annoying, but especially when people reach out to you about it. But I think we all have just a different kind of skill set and things we're looking at and ways we're talking about it. And as Jonathan mentioned, learning about the environments, just the wildlife, all that sort of stuff, and being able to go to some of these places. I mean, like having Ron there in Alaska was absolutely awesome. And, just being able to do stuff like that where we can kind of tack onto each other's different projects and adventures. And I think it's awesome. And I love being able to do this kind of stuff, and obviously good to keep good company. And you guys are definitely good company in my view. So
to go along with that, just real quick, not only do we bounce research off each other, which makes us better researchers in a way, but as far as the content we make, it makes our videos much better too, because we bounce it off each other. Like, oh, I don't know about that. That's pretty cool. I don't like that, this and that. But so because of that, we also make good quality content, and it's really enjoyable. So
the PDG is forever. I mean,
the PDG is forever the best thing that's ever happened.
Absolutely. But anyway, awesome, guys. Well, great show. It's been awesome talking to you guys. Obviously getting back into the spirit of the show here. We thank everyone in the chat, obviously all the questions and comments and all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's fun. We'll definitely be doing more streams. I'm going to have I don't know when the next stream will be. So at some point we'll have a new studio then. I'm going to be moving, so there won't be this setup anymore. So there will be.
What's behind you, Alex?
It's a green screen.
No, what's behind you?
Big.
Someone's behind you.
Oh no. It's haunted. No, but yeah. So we shall see when the next show is. But definitely check all of these guys out. The links to all of them in the description. Obviously, we're talking about Tate's series as well. That's going to be coming out too. So it's going to be a lot of the stuff we talked about, a little bit more kind of obviously expansive, because you're going to be able to see those locations and talk about the different things that they found. And I'm really excited to see it. I just obviously like supporting what you guys are doing too. So a lot of fun. But thanks again, everyone in the comments and everything. And we shall see you guys on another occasion. Until then, everyone take it easy and have a good one. Stay safe.
Later.